The garage was burning, my paralyzed son was still inside, and the woman who lit the match was standing in the driveway, smiling like she'd just won the neighborhood bake-off. I swear if you'd asked anyone in Silverbrook Heights about Karen Blackwell before that day, they'd tell you she was the picture of suburban success. HOA president platinum hair, that clipped country club accent, the whole nine. What Karen didn't know was, I'm not just some quiet widower limping around on a busted knee. I'm a retired colonel who once ran Delta Force operations in places nobody even admits we go. I didn't wait for justice. I drove through fire, dragged my son out with my own scorched hands, and then I delivered justice the only way a man like me knows how. This isn't just another HOA abuse story. It's what happens when a so-called leader gets high on power and finally pushes a father too far. You know, people around here always thought I was just another broken man, living out his days in an old flannel shirt with a son who couldn't walk and a pickup that had seen better years. Every afternoon, my boy Lucas would roll himself down the sidewalk past all those perfect lawns and tighter lips headed for the community garage. He's 9 years old, paralyzed from the waist down since the accident that took his mom, but he carries himself with more fire than any man I ever served with. That garage became his world, his hangar, his battlefield plastered with blueprints and scribbles and green marker names like Maverick, Raptor, Ghost, and Hawk, the models he'd built from old parts and pure obsession. That kid could rattle off the thrust-to-weight ratio of an Apache in his sleep. Once he looked at me and said, "Disability doesn't ground pilots, Dad. It just changes the flight plan." God, I believed him. We'd only been in Silverbrook Heights about 6 months, a place that sells itself on order and community and all those other lies people tell to keep their little kingdoms neat. Everyone smiled too wide, talked too little, and watched too damn much. I tried to stay small, old Gene's quiet words, a fake history as a contractor instead of the real one stamped across my bones. But even before the boxes were unpacked, I felt something cold at our backs. Karen Blackwell, the HOA queen. She didn't say a word for days, just watched from behind those lace curtains, eyes sharp as a drone's lens. But on day 3, she came marching up my porch heels, clacking like pistol shots, clipboard in hand. She smiled, that syrupy smile, all teeth and no warmth. "Mr. Harrison, we take pride in Silverbrook Heights. Clean lines, quiet, neighbors, no unnecessary clutter." Her gaze fixed on the ramp I'd built so Lucas could get in and out of his own damn home. She didn't say it, but I saw it clear as day, my son's wheels, my modifications. All of it offended her precious sense of order. She started in with military families sometimes bring instability. Special needs children can be a drain on shared resources, and those metal ramps disrupt the harmony. I almost laughed in her face. Instead, I just said, jaw locked tight, "That ramp is how my son gets home." She didn't flinch. Well, perhaps something less institutional would be appropriate. I leaned in, couldn't help myself, told her Lucas built more for this world from a wheelchair than she ever would standing up. That hit her for a second, and her mask cracked. "People like you think your uniform gives you special privileges," she spat. "But this is my neighborhood. I just said real calm, no Karen, it's my son's runway, and you just crossed into restricted airspace." That should have been the end, but people like her control is their oxygen. If you're still with me, let me know down below, because what she did next, man, it's hard to believe even now. It started like any other afternoon. Lucas rolled out toolkit on his lap, his F-16 replica Falcon 1 nearly finished. I watched from the porch, coffee in hand, thinking maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. Then I saw her striding across the cul-de-sac, but this time instead of a clipboard, she had a hammer. She didn't knock, didn't pause, just marched into that garage and started swinging. By the time I got there, it was too late. Falcon 1 smashed to pieces on the concrete. Lucas, shaking not from his legs but from the shock. Karen turned to the gathering neighbors, announced that military imagery glorifies violence, and said it had no place here. She looked me in the eye, said, "My son built instruments of death, and this wasn't Afghanistan." My hands were balled into fists so tight I drew blood. Lucas whimpered, "Dad." Why, Karen just leaned down and whispered, "Because some things don't belong here, and neither do you." Most of the neighbors pretended not to see. A few looked ashamed, but nobody said a word. That's when Karen changed tactics. No more direct attacks, just watching recording, always there behind the roses with a camera like she was building a dossier. New HOA bulletins started landing. No unsupervised minors. No motorized mobility devices. New safety policies designed to erase my son by inches. She was stalking us, pattern tracking, behavioral mapping, all the things I'd seen used to break people in war zones now repurposed for the suburbs. Twist in the story. Mrs. Patterson, our next-door neighbor, she started leaving little care packages for Lucas, model glue, extra decals, sometimes a kind word. She'd lost her husband in Iraq, so maybe she recognized a battle when she saw one. But that just made Karen more desperate. I started sleeping light a go-bag under the bed, locking up everything tight. But I knew something was coming. And it did on a day so ordinary it felt staged. Lucas was in the garage humming again, tinkering with his new Apache model, when Karen showed up in a lavender cardigan, soft voice, talking about a chemical spill. She coaxed him inside, sealed the door behind him, and doused the place with gasoline. My kid trap tried calling for help, but Karen blocked the door, struck a lighter, and the place went up like a damn fuel depot. It was Mrs. Patterson who called me screaming through the phone. "Your son's trapped. The garage is on fire." Karen locked him in. Instinct took over. I bolted to the basement through the false wall where I'd stashed my unregistered tactical UTV, a little insurance from the old days. I tore out through fences and flower beds straight into the blaze. Flames curled around me, but I found Lucas coughing, clutching his stuffed F-16, eyes wide but alive. I hoisted him in his chair and ran through fire like I'd run through gunfire in Kandahar, lungs burning, mind white-hot with rage. Karen was outside filming the chaos, that sick little smile still on her face. I handed Lucas to Mr. Gonzalez, who looked about as shocked as a man can look, then turned back, climbed into the UTV and aimed straight for her. I didn't kill her, I'm not a monster, but I put her through those rose bushes hard enough she'll never forget. Dragged her into the street, zip-cuffed her like the battlefield detainees she pretended didn't exist, blackout hood and all. And that's when the cavalry arrived. 4 Delta Force helicopters swooped in, soldiers hit the ground, and for the first time Karen realized she'd gone after the wrong damn family. The neighborhood watched, some still in shock, some finally understanding what real evil looks like. Mrs. Langston said she was filming it and she smiled. Mr. Thompson, who lost his son overseas, was the first to back me up. For once, people spoke up. Karen got hauled off by Delta. Her mugshot was everywhere the next day. The investigation blew wide open, buried threats targeting other families, folders labeled flight plan terminations. She went down on federal hate crimes, attempted murder, civil rights abuse. 65 years, no parole. No lawyer could spin it. Neighbors' security cam footage showed everything. Fast forward. A year later, the garage is rebuilt, brighter, stronger. Lucas named it Hangar 2, and this time I built it with him. He's designing jets now, real ones for pilots like himself, for kids who won't let a wheelchair hold them down. He still flinches at loud noises, still scans exits, but he smiles again. 2 weeks before the anniversary, we get an official letter. Lucas is invited to speak at the Pentagon Department of Defense Honors. He gets up there 10 years old and tells the whole nation, pilots don't need legs, they need vision, they need grit, they need backup. The applause shakes the rafters. He gets a job offer, real flight programs for disabled kids. On the way home, Lucas asks Dad, "Do you think Karen ever looks up from her cell, remembers me?" I tell him, "No, son, because people like her never look up. But people like you become the sky." So here's what I want you to take away. Sometimes evil doesn't wear a mask. It wears pearls and a name tag and hides behind neighborhood rules. And when it comes for your family, you fight. Not just for yourself, but for the next kid who's told he doesn't belong. If you made it to the end of this, drop a wings in the comments so I know you're here. Tell me about your battles, your victories, your scars. Share this story if it hit you, and subscribe if you want to see what happens when ordinary people refuse to stay silent. Because in the end, justice doesn't wait for a court date, and sometimes it arrives wearing a flight suit.